Hi everyone, so let's get back into the 2009 paper, starting with question 16. What might explain why a country's economic welfare remains unchanged despite a reduction here in measured national income per capita? So national income has gone down, but economic welfare has remained unchanged. So something else has actually contributed towards the overall quality of life here that people are enjoying clearly, despite this fall in actual income per capita. So an increase in government expenditure on the police force. Okay, right. Well, no, that doesn't quite fit the bill there. Yes, if it actually said something about crime rates going down, perhaps, then that would be plausible, but no. A reduction in the percentage of national income consumed. No, because clearly there'd still be a reduction in economic welfare then, because people are consuming less. So a reduction in the average number of hours worked. Okay, well, this is generally going to be seen as a positive here, particularly if you consider the fact that work is often perceived as an inferior good. Okay, so therefore a reduction in the average number of hours worked, we can anticipate that this is likely to be the plausible response there. Okay, so the answer would be C. Okay, number 17. 17, between 2007 and 2008, output per worker increased by 3.5%. Okay, so that's output per worker, output per hour by 3.8, and output per job by 2.5%. Okay, so, right, so let's have a look through these different answers that we've got. So 17A, there was an increase in the average number of hours worked. Okay, does it tell us this? Well, it says that output per hour has gone up, but if output per hour has gone up, it actually means that workers are generally being more productive and the output per worker is overall increased. And then we've got output per job also going up. So no, it doesn't tell us that the average number of hours has actually in effect increased, but it's just people's productivity each hour has actually been raised. Okay, is it B? There was an increase in the average number of jobs worked. Okay, well, this seems more plausible. Because output per job has also gone up and the output per worker has increased for each of those jobs. Meanwhile, the output per hour worked has also gone up. So this seems like it could be a plausible response. Okay, so let's just highlight that. C, there was an increase in the working population. No, well, it doesn't tell us this. So it doesn't tell us that first one, A. It doesn't tell us this one. There was an increase in the number in employment. Does it tell us that? No, well, it's really talking about the productivity elements. So if you think about the actual productivity elements, then therefore the plausible answer that I'm left with here is B. There was an increase in the average number of jobs per worker, and each worker was able to be that much more productive in their new roles. Okay. All right, so the answer would be B. Let's move it on to 18. Okay, so these are easy questions to get tripped up on. Whenever you've got a graph like this, you've got to be aware that your zero baseline here is here. Okay, so you could almost, far better if I use a rule to do this. Let's just put that across. We can see, roughly speaking, our sort of baseline there. Denoted with the zero baseline. Okay, so that will help give you some context for this as to whether the things are increasing or decreasing. So which conclusion can be drawn from this data? Is it A, the prices of goods rose between 2000 and 2001? Well, we can see, having drawn this line in, that actually, no, the prices there are still in negative figures. So No, it's not that. Okay, so no, we can say that's definitely not the case because prices are actually going down, not rising. Is it B? The prices of goods were lower in 2004 than in 1999. Okay, so let's just highlight sort of 2004 there, and then let's go to 1999, which is about there. Okay, so well, this certainly seems accurate because we have a number of successive periods of deflation here from 99 to 2000. 2001 is essentially another fall in prices, and then again from 2002 through to certainly 2003, and then half of 2004 there's also falling prices. So this one is certainly true. I'll just highlight why the others are also inaccurate here. Okay, so the prices of services fell between 2002 and 2004. Well, we can see that services are positive throughout this period, so you can just ignore any sort of time period here from 2002 to 2004. You might be tempted to say, oh, well, that's a fall, but it's not, because CPI inflation is still rising year on year in a positive number. So that's actually a continual rise despite the actual level of the rise falling. Okay, and between 1997 and 2004, services cost more than goods. Well, we don't know that, but we know that services are clearly going up at a greater rate of inflation than goods are. Okay, so the answer is certainly B. Right, okay, so number 19. So again, you know your Gini coefficients, and you know how to calculate this. You'll be absolutely fine with this. Let's just bring this in line with the camera here. Okay. So 19, the Lorenz curve in the diagram shows the distribution of household income in the economy. How is the Gini coefficient of inequality measured? Okay, so we've got to actually work out the difference between our line of equality and where the Lorenz curve actually is. So we can see it's that area W. Now remember, if we were on this line of equality, we'd have zero inequality. If just 1% of households had all the income, you'd have a Gini coefficient of 1 here. Okay, so therefore, what we've got to do is got to consider the fact that we've got W, and we've got to take W and divide that by W plus Y here to work this out, okay? All right, so we can take this here, and there it is. Okay, so the answer will be B. Okay, just to remind yourselves of why this is the case, of course, it's because that if you're here, you've got no area W, so in effect you've got Y divided by, nothing divided by plus Y. So in effect the answer is going to be nothing. If you're here, then you've only got area W, so area W divided by W would be 1. Okay, all right, so let's move it along. Okay, so the table shows changes between 2004 and 2005 in the values of some key economic variables. Okay, increase in index of hourly earnings. Okay, country X versus the world. Right, let's just see what the question is. Between 2004 and 2005, trade-weighted value of currency X's currency appreciated by 4%. So that means the actual cost has gone up by 4%. What was the approximate change in countries X relative unit labour costs? Okay, between 2004 and 2005. So we can see that country X has already gone up at plus 4% because of that currency appreciation of 4% here. Meanwhile, if we just compare these figures here, index of hourly earnings, okay, so we can actually see between here and here, country X's earnings haven't increased as much, so that would in effect be -2 is the difference. So country X is that much more competitive against the world by -2 there. Increase in labour productivity. Well, country X is lagging here what we see in the world. Okay, so it's not as productive in essence. So therefore, that is going to lead to an increase in relative unit labour costs. So we can see that based on this, we've got +4 minus 2 equals 2 plus 1 equals +3. So therefore, the answer would be C. Okay, right. So let's keep going. Right, number 21. In a closed economy, the marginal propensity to consume out of disposable income is 3/4, and taxes are 20% of GDP. So just to remind yourselves, to work out your multiplier, you've got 1 over 1 minus MPC. Okay. Or alternatively, of course, you can take 1 divided by the marginal propensity to withdraw. So let's just work this one out, because it's only asking about the actual marginal propensity to consume. Okay, very simply here that we can see we've got 20% of taxes. So immediately you're left with 0.8 of your potential income that you've got. And then from 0.8, we can see that people would spend 3/4, which is 0.75. So then if we multiply 0.8 by 0.75, that gives us 0.6. So therefore, we can see that consumers will actually spend 60% of their overall income. Okay, right. Let's keep going. Number 22. Diagram shows an economy's aggregate demand and supply curves. What helps to explain why aggregate demand is downward sloping? Okay, so a decrease in the price level will increase the real value of individuals' money balances. Well, that is the answer. Yeah, that's entirely consistent with the reasoning behind this. So yeah, that's certainly true. So the answer therefore would be A. And really, we don't need to go any further there. Right, excuse me. Okay, so let's move it through to 23. Okay, so 23, an economy is experiencing both a high rate of inflation and a deficit on the current account of its balance of payments. Okay, so we've got high inflation and we've got a current account deficit. So which would be the most appropriate combination of policy changes for dealing with this situation? So if we just think about deficit, if we just think about the current account deficit, for instance, here, then if you wanted to address that, what you'll want to probably do on the exchange rate, and we can see that's one of our options here, is you're probably going to want to devalue your currency. Now, however, we can see it also mentions this high rate of inflation. So that can be a concern here. Because, of course, if you devalue the exchange rate, then it does mean that you will face higher import costs. Okay, so your cost of imports will rise. So what about the government fiscal deficit? So which is the most appropriate combination of policy changes for dealing with this situation? Well, they'd want to decrease their deficit. Let's just make sure that we're okay with this, because another alternative here, because there is some ambiguity to this question, because the high inflation part, it could be about revaluing the exchange rate and decreasing this fiscal deficit. Okay, so that would be the alternative solution that you could really highlight. Perhaps. So if we just think about this, though, we need to correct this current account situation as well. So therefore, the best answer, the answer that fits, despite a certain degree of ambiguity, is this one. Okay, and that is because we want to correct the current account deficit, and taking money out of the economy via government spending would help to reduce aggregate demand, and that would bring down inflation. That's why I would go for A. Okay, so 24. Over which policy may a country lose control if it sets its sets a fixed parity for its currency against other currencies. Of course, it's monetary policy. Okay, they cannot freely change their interest rate because it would have an impact on the currency's value. Right.